Brought to you by Telehelping, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall, and I am the host of the Faces Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing organization, and the herein sponsor of my podcast. So I appreciate Telehelping for allowing me the great opportunity to speak to people like Rob. Rob, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Cody. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm really excited. I know we had to reschedule, and those are always the ones I'm like, man, I was like looking forward to chatting with them, and then someone cuts your power, and then you don't have a hamster on a treadmill to get things going. So, but here
You
we
know,
are.
life happens. We all have to be
Uh,
flexible, right?
As is life, yes. Well, Rob, before we, because I'm definitely capable of doing it, running down any tangents, tell us who's Rob? Who are we chatting with here today?
I am a CPA by background. I like to joke with people that I'm a bit of a CPA with a personality. So for those of you only listening, not watching this, I don't have like a green visor or pocket protector on. I'm not hiding in the corner. I am in my office, but that's a whole nother story. CPA by background, and I specialize in helping elite sales professionals pay less in taxes. I'm not your standard accountant. I don't run on transactional relationships. I've got a limited number, and we focus on just trying to help them pay as little as possible. I love
Uh,
it. Spent a bunch of time in public accounting at the highest levels, and a bunch of other things that I'm sure we might get into and talk about today. But I love being able to help what I call provide like real tangible value to my clients. Like immediately be able to see, oh, this is how much we actually save. So it's a lot of fun.
I like that. And this is the personality side. I imagine you being that, told me earlier you were a Utah guy, family guy, outdoorsy. Those are very
Oh,
common
nice.
traits that make it to the Utah people.
Oh yeah, no, I've married, 3 kids. Um, whether it's playing sports outside or going to the gym or hikes out here. If you haven't been to Utah and you're listening to this, it's almost cartoonish. The mountains, they just like pop out of the ground. And sometimes I feel like I'm looking at something from like Lord of the Rings with like epic music playing in the background, da 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 da, type of thing with just how beautiful the mountains look. Yeah,
That
it's
is like,
great.
yeah, and that is exactly what it's like. Funny enough, everyone, we were chatting. Rob lives probably within a mile where my brother lives, and
Mhm.
which is great because you can be anywhere in the Utah Valley and have a mountain view, right?
Oh yeah,
Really be anywhere. And so you
in
walk
almost any
out,
direction too, which is
yeah,
crazy.
correct, correct. It's beautiful. I mean, I love the October and beyond. Even if you don't have snow in the valley, you look out to the mountains to the west, and it's just like imagine. I think it would. This was what like the North Wall looks like in Game of Thrones, right? I feel like that's what that mountain range looks like. It protects us from the north.
Yeah,
That's what that mountain range
it's
looks like.
beautiful.
Uh,
If you ever get a chance to come up here in the fall, there's about a 3 or 4 week window where you can go up a bunch of our canyons here in the mountains, and we got all these aspen trees that are up in the mountains, and they all start to change colors. There's an explosion of these reds and oranges and yellows, and everyone back east is probably thinking to themselves, "This is just any other fall day for us." But out here out west, we don't get as much of those, and it's absolutely gorgeous. We love that time of year.
No, I mean, Salt Lake City is known for its outdoorsiness. And so I'm sure it's really hard for you to sit around all day and crunch numbers, but you did say something that I oftentimes joke with one of my investing partners on who is a CPA as well. I say that he has the emotional intelligence of a brick. And so um,
I wish
because
I could say that that was uncommon in the industry, but sadly, that is not the case.
well, no, I'm glad it is that way actually, because a majority, well, I don't know. I don't know if majority would be an accurate statistic, but a good amount of our accounting clients, when they hire virtual assistants, it's usually for a marketer, right? They're hiring someone to manage their
Yeah,
marketing because they're like, I don't know. They didn't teach me that in law, or they didn't teach me that in the CPA course. Like I didn't learn that with my Mac. I didn't know how to create artwork. I didn't know I had to be an influencer, right? So most of them are hiring marketers because that's just not what they do.
yeah. I mean, most of us get into accounting because we like numbers. We like the stories that the numbers will tell us, and the the joke of an accountant hiding in a basement, in a room with no windows, is sometimes kind of true. those are definitely the personalities that you can find in the industry. But if you're going to grow a business, you're going to be an entrepreneur in the accounting space in any way, shape, or form. You got to learn to sell. You got to learn to market, and
Yeah. Well, you know,
grow from it.
it's a difficult thing, and majority of all of our clients, therefore, in relation to the podcast as well, our guests are professional services, lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors. And these groups, except the financial advisors, I kind of put them as talking about someone who works directly with high earning sales individuals. Some financial advisors are definitely in that space, like their personality wise. But we talk about lawyers and accountants, it's very similar, right? These are folks who are dedicated to the art that has to do with something regarding numbers or words, right? Sentences and, literature. And those two things, oftentimes when you have someone who maybe is really great at those, more often than not, they're not bustling with personality, right? Because their brain was dedicated to those things. And that can make creating your own practice very difficult.
Yeah, certainly. There's a little bit of a belief, like so. I started off my career at Ernst Young, one of the 4 largest accounting firms in the world.
Yeah.
Um, Great experience, met many wonderful people, learned from many wonderful mentors. But I did 2 separate stints there. When I got out of UI the first time, I kind of came across a saying um, in the accounting world that basically was, if you can hack it, if you have any sort of entrepreneurial type of ambitions or skills, you'll never stay in Big Four.
Yeah.
Not because they don't sell or anything, but they are so attuned to those numbers and to the letters on the page. Because to a certain extent, that's what we also have to be as accountants as well, especially with new laws like the Big Beautiful Bill and things that have come out. Like, the individuals who stay around tend to be subject matter experts. And so the higher you go, the more you realize, yes, those individuals, kind of have to develop some of those other skills, but they're always kind of lacking a little bit to some extent. I don't think it's totally true, this kind of
I would compare it to
perception,
I'd compare
but
it to the military.
there's some truth in it, honestly.
No, I would compare it to the military, Rob, because it's one of those things like I don't knock anyone who makes a career out of the military. All right. I'm just saying, like, you have to be a certain type of person. Like,
Agreed.
you have to, and truthfully, you have to not lack certain things and you have to lack others, right? But I just never really did what I was told very well. And so, like, that
That
doesn't
is
really
going to run
jive,
contrary to the military, for sure.
right? And it's the same thing with like being a big four person. If you're working at the big four, you're sitting there, with Deloitte or, anyone, right? Ernst Young's, you're sitting there and, you have to be good with like what they provide, which is great. Like working for McKinsey, Deloitte, Ernst Young, like these are great organizations to work for, and they offer a very comparable way to justify spending your career there if you wanted to.
For sure.
However, you that there is their way of doing things. Like there is a their way of doing. There's a reason why this machine exists, and if you're an entrepreneur, you most likely aren't going to be good at staying within that
You should call it
confines,
playing the game.
playing the game.
Sometimes you don't want to play the game by their rules. You want to play a different game, or you want to play the game a slightly different way, and it's probably not
It reminds
good.
me of Apple, to be honest with you. Uh, you can be very successful. And I developed like an Apple personality when I worked at Apple. There was like Cody, and then there was Cody at Apple, right? And you had to be that game player at Apple, or else you wouldn't get anywhere. You had to play the rat race. You had to have the personality. You had to communicate the way they want you to communicate at Apple, and that's fine and dandy. I know people who still work there at all the levels, and they play the game. My heart aches to play people's games. I don't want to play. I want to play my own games.
I completely agree with you.
So what got you into, so you work with high earning sales folks. So you're over here, probably doing really well for yourself, right? Hanging out, all secure and everything in the future because Ernst Young's is not going anywhere with any recession or any economic move. So
Yeah.
sitting and enjoying life. And then you're just like, the hell with all the stability, right? and I'm going to go out and I'm going to start doing taxes and stuff for these guys over here making a bunch of money and spending it all. Like, did you start with the sales guys, or how did you land there?
Oh, there are many parts to this story, is the short answer, Cody. And so it depends on how much time you want to talk about it. So, okay, I'm going to give you a condensed version, and feel free to like stop, interject, and say, tell me more,
All
at any
right.
point in
Yeah.
all of it. Okay. So my journey actually began while I was in college. I I went to school actually thinking I want to be a dentist. And I'm 6'5", about 245. I am not a small guy. So my wife likes to joke that
Yeah.
I could have never been a dentist anyways, because I would have never been able to get my hands in
I don't
someone's mouth.
I don't think the chair goes that high either. So
I
you have
have
to
to
get
have a unique standing desk. I will say that in order to make it work. Um, but ultimately decided to major in accounting because I graduated from Brigham Young University, BYU, and we have one of the top 3 accounting programs in the country. And I was planning on doing a business major anyways, even while I was in the dentistry route, thinking to myself, well, you know, I want to own my own practice one day. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to just be some dentist just kind of checking out 9 to 5, type of thing. So I better get a business degree so I at least know what I'm doing. And if I'm going to get a business degree, I'm going to get the best business degree that I can here. So I took my first accounting class and fell in love with it and realized that the thing that I loved about accounting, I'd always been pretty good at math, always good at with numbers, but I loved the story that the numbers could tell me. I was that
Mm,
kid growing up where you always say why, 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 why. And karma's a bee, and my kids ask why all the time, and it sometimes drives me nuts. But the point here is, accounting finally told me the why behind why businesses do things, why economies do things, why politicians will sometimes act the way that they do, why do business owners make certain types of decisions, why are certain investments successful and others not. And I could suddenly start to see the landscape, and to me that was so cool. It was a way for me to understand my world all around. And
yeah.
so after a little while, I just fully dropped dentistry and went all in on accounting. But at the same time, I knew that I didn't want to be a standard accountant. I knew that I didn't want to just go work in some big corporate job, or I didn't want to work at Big Four forever. I could kind of like read the writing on the wall with the rest of my classmates and go, one of these is not like the others, type of thing. Well, there's a few of us. They're not like the others. But the idea here was I got to figure out what the heck I want to do. So I explored a lot of different options. Eventually, randomly, had a gentleman by the name of Michael Phelps, no relation to the swimmer, but named Michael Phelps, who came and presented at my school. And he talked about what he had done working as a CPA, who had then worked at Merrill Lynch and then went and started his own business as a financial advisor. And as he described what he was doing as a financial advisor, I thought, okay, that's really cool. I'd always wanted to do something where I could make good money, I could be my own boss, but I always wanted to do something also that was personally meaningful. I could help people. And I'd always enjoyed personal finance stuff. And so I thought, okay, cool. I want to go that route. That would be really cool. I want to help people with their personal financial life. And so I graduated from school, got a job at Ernst Young, but I was an auditor when I first started. Not even,
That sounds so excited. But it does go
it
back to
was,
you. You like the number. You like the story that numbers tell you, and so I'm sure you didn't hate it too much. But I mean, it's not winning any sexy awards.
oh no, it did not. In fact, I hated it so much, I got out of audit as fast as I could, which wound up being about a year and a half there. Transferred into the a tax group in a different office. Started working in what's called PCS, Private Client Services. It's the last vest. All the big four have them. They're basically the last vestiges of the ultra wealthy tax. So, like, you want to know how to buy a baseball team? I can tell you how to do that. Want to structure handing off millions of dollars to your kids without any tax implications? I can tell you how to do that. Want to take a yacht and turn it into a charitable deduction? I can tell you how to do that. Well, I learned all sorts of really interesting things, serving everyone from like small town, super successful entrepreneurs all the way up to like CEOs, international athletes, and billionaires. Like it was a fascinating journey. But at the end of the day, I was just this minor cog in a big wheel, and I had these dreams of really being able to help people maybe get to those types of levels. And so I wound up leaving Ernst Young my first time around, and went on a little bit of a journey over the course of the next 3-4 years where I did everything from like I first took a job in a local wealth advisory shop, got my CFP, learned about financial planning, did a bunch of stuff, but
Right.
got really bored really quick because I quickly learned that you basically serve 65 to 85-year-olds, and we're really just managing money, and we might do some sort of planning, but basically everything is already kind of determined by that point for most of these types of individuals. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something unique. I wanted to actually really help people, was the phrase that I kept saying. I felt like it was almost robbery that we're managing money, but we look at their accounts maybe twice a year, maybe for like
Yeah.
maybe an hour each. And no offense to anyone that was at that firm that I worked at. They were all wonderful people. I loved them. I learned a ton. But I got bored and I wanted more, and they kept trying to keep me in this little box, right? Like, we don't work well being told what to do and taking orders. Well, I didn't know to
Yeah.
work well sitting in a box. And so I kept trying all these things out, whether it was like, hey, I'm going to start doing social media stuff because no one at the firm did social media at the time. Okay, I'm going to do social media. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to go learn about option stuff. I'm going to go learn about real estate. I'm going to go learn about all these other things. Why don't we talk to our clients about these items? No. We manage assets. Like, we might talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but like, this is our box. Stay in the box. I didn't like that. And so I eventually wound up leaving. I actually went and got a job in sales doing B2B SaaS sales.
Good. And so, question: your wife's been with you the entire time?
Oh yeah, we got married the year before, the summer before I started my last year of my master's. So yeah,
Okay, yeah.
she's here the whole time
She's
with me.
she's just watching this. Watching this
She's riding the waves
unfold,
with me
right?
for sure.
Gotcha.
And to this day, we joke that like it was a bit of a hot mess for me for a while there. So, but it was all purposeful. We both, my wife and I are very very faith based. Like, my podcast was called Contenders Wanted, and I interviewed highly successful individuals, and my tagline was faith, family, and finances in that order.
Yeah.
And so like we always felt like God was helping us out and directing us and pushing us where we ought to be for us and our families. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, let's be real. If you look at it as an outsider, it was all over the place. In fact, I got a couple different job offers to go do other things a couple of times. One that looked really freaking amazing with a family office and a billionaire whose name I could drop, but ultimately felt like it wasn't right. And so went this other direction. There's all sorts of stories I could tell. But anyway, I digress. My point is, eventually I found my way back. I did B2B sales for a while with a startup, a fintech startup, and kind of started the initial beginnings of what became Contender Financial, my little business serving these elite sales professionals, while I was selling on the side. Selling full time, and I was building this on the side. Almost like two startups at the same time. And Elements was the name of the company where I was doing the selling. It went up, got to $1 million in annual recurring revenue, and then we dropped like a rock. And eventually, at the point where I wound up having to exit that, and I was like, well, I can always go back into public accounting. So I reached out to some of my contacts at EY, went back to EY for a while, spent another couple of years there. And while I was there, I kind of shelved my little business for a while, but I couldn't get over that entrepreneurial itch. And I didn't want to just be in the box. And I kept getting people coming up to me, like, hey, Rob, can you help me with this? Hey, Rob, could you help me with that? Well, yeah, I can, technically. I don't know if I'm allowed to. So eventually I just got approval from the firm. Like, yeah, you can go build some random planning thing off to the side. Cool. I'm not, just like you kind of said at the beginning here, I'm not going to quite tell the EY partners exactly what I'm doing, but I'm going to, it's planning. I'm doing planning for people. So I'm not doing tax compliance because I didn't prepare any tax returns for my clients on the first day, but I had to iterate because I was trying to do something different, but I didn't know what I was honestly trying to do at that point. I had spent enough time in the CPA world to know that most CPA relationships are really, really transactional. Just give me all your documents. I'm going to prepare your tax return, and then please don't come and talk to me for at least another 9 months. Or if you need something, I'll respond timely in the next 3 months for you. And then I might charge you $500 to be able to talk to you. Like, okay, well, that doesn't really work. I mean, that's great. The big bad boogeyman of the IRS keeps us employed and, it's nice job security. But at the end of the day, we're not really doing a lot to serve our clients. So we could be doing more.
Yeah.
But it just didn't work in the business model.
About how many years have we gotten to it? So you're back to EY.
I'm like 9 years into my journey at this point.
9 years in. Okay, great. Okay, it's important for people to understand that, I feel like so much anxiety comes from people in their 20s and 30s. And it's like, oh my God, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm like, well, you don't have to. There's sometimes, whether it's divine or just general choices, something's guiding you down a path for a reason, right?
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Softening your edge is like a kind of a river softens rocks, right? And so, so you're 9 years into this.
let me give you some like context for why I 100% believe that. So I look at what I do now and the business that I've built now, and I could not do what I do now if I didn't have a lot of my experiences. So, like, for example, that Elements business where I did B2B sales. I was an accountant. I had never done sales in my entire life, but I spent a year and a half trying to learn this craft. And I have a lot of respect for sales guys. My dad was a sales guy forever, but if you ask him, he says he's not a sales guy because he doesn't want to have that like sleazy sales,
The
persona that gets
label.
attached to a
Right.
sales guy, right? Um, but every day I sell my services now, every single day. And if I hadn't spent that year and a half there, I would have no idea how to sell my service. I'd just be sitting here, and be like, "Hey, let me try and help you. You need some help? Want to pay less in taxes? Great." But I'd have no understanding of like, "Hey, this is called consultative selling." I sit down, I get to know a client, I understand what they're looking for, I provide some value so they can understand the value that I can potentially provide. And then I have an offering for them that is packaged in a way that they understand the value that I can provide to them that lowers the risk from their perspective, but also is profitable for my business. I would have never been able to even have that type of a conversation had I never had that experience at Elements. Um, I had 3 failed versions of Contender Financial before I got up and running, figuring out like what is an actual profitable business model? What are the things that people actually want? What does it mean to deliver value? How do I even go about doing that? How do I package this in a way that people actually understand it? How do I talk about this in a way that actually gets people excited? How do I price myself? Like my first iteration of
Right.
Contender Financial, my tagline was world class advice for less than the cost of your gym membership. Sounds really cool. I mean, I charge $20 a month. Problem is, when you're just starting out in a business only making $20 a customer, I need thousands of customers. And here I'm working full time and at the same time trying to grow this little business. And I've got a young family. Well, I've got kids. I got a wife. I'm trying to fight the dad bod, like all the things, right? Like there's a million balls. Right? And I couldn't get clients fast enough. This is a horrible business model for starting out. And I've since learned from like Alex Ramosi and other guys, like charge more first, then go back to the more mass market later, right? But I would have never learned any of these lessons had I not tried, made the attempts at least.
Yeah.
Had some serious failures when I'm on my knees at night looking up at God and going, what the heck? I'm trying so hard. What is wrong with me? Why is this not working? I'm trying to do something that in my mind is trying to do good for the world, do good for people. My ultimate goal is I want to change the financial lives of a million families. Like, why is this so hard? To your point, man, it took 9 years, multiple
Well,
failures.
I think it's interesting about that, Rob, is right now most of the young entrepreneurs, these hustle culture that are in their 20s and 30s, these folks, they're seeing it the opposite. They come out of college and they go right into this entrepreneurial journey. And when they don't succeed because they don't achieve the Lamborghinis, Porsches, and cars, the YouTubers they'd watch, tell them they're going to have, right? And when they're not there years into it, or even depending on how bad of a time is, months, they're sitting there like, oh, I just don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Well, check out Rob, my own past. Like you're gonna have to get into it somewhere else. And what I refer to is still value from experience, right? Like, yes, you have to go work from, I've worked for a lot of idiots, right? But every idiot's taught me something, right? Uh, and I think that those people, right, allow me to only work for one idiot, and that's me. I'm the only idiot I'll ever work for, right? Because I learned so much for these other people. Like, oh, I like that. Oh, I'm gonna put that into that. That's my belt. Oh, I like that. I'll put that belt. Like, okay, now I feel like I can do this. Much like yourself, if I just come out of college, come out of the Marine Corps and try to start telehelping, I'd be upside down right now.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're into this, and at what point in time were you like, you know what? As my old vice president used to say, at what point in time did you decide to burn the boat like the Vikings, right? The boat's landing on the shore and you're like, I'm not going back to Ernst Young. I'm going to burn this boat and I'm gonna see it through. What was that moment where you're like, I'm doing this?
Well, it was about a year and a couple of months ago, actually. So I I'd had enough failures that when it clicked, I could feel it. I went, ooh, wait a second. This is growing much easier than any other thing I've ever tried to do. I'm making more money than I've ever been able to do previous to this. I am way more confident that I'm providing great value and doing good things for my clients. And like, ooh, okay. And I remember being so excited. And I remember sitting down and having a conversation with my wife one night. We're sitting there in bed. I'm like, babe, for this is, iteration number 7,560, right? Type of thing. She's like, okay, babe, okay, right. But I could feel it. And it took a few months still, though, because for me, I mean, I am relatively risk averse still. Although I'm entrepreneurial, I'm still an accountant. I still have a young family. I couldn't just, in my mind, I couldn't just like immediately jump and just slice off. If it was just me and I was single, I would have probably burnt the boats right then and gone, just
Yeah.
because I was so excited. I had to think about my kids. I had to think about my wife. I had to
It's
think
easy to
about my
start.
work.
It's easy to starve you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I I strategically waited a bit. And it was about October. So it was probably May when I felt the switch. May, June. I felt the switch. October of last year, I was still working at Ernst Young, and I went on paternity leave. Now, the big four public accounting firms, they're all compete for talent, so they have ridiculous benefits. One of which is 16 weeks of paternity leave. Insane. But I
Correct.
was like, that sounds like 16 weeks of a runway for me. Okay, let's see how this goes. So I had booked 8, and then I was going to come back in January. So I started to compress my timeline because I was like, okay, I got 16 weeks if I need it, but like, let's see if I can do it in 8. Let's see what happens. And so prior to me going on my paternity leave, I started to kind of ramp things up a little bit. Like, okay, doing some influencer marketing, building some key relationships in the seller space. Okay, I'm gonna start to be even more proactive on my social media. I'm gonna be pushing out, reaching out to customers more. Like, hey, do you have anyone who could benefit from my services more? And just trying to like grease the wheels and see what happens. And it was over like a 3 month time period. Well, my business doubled every month for 3 straight months. And I was like, okay, this really is different. Sweet. I'm going to tell my bosses at EY that I ain't coming back after this maternity leave. They're going to think I'm nuts. Right. Well, I, if it was just up to me, I probably would have just kept trying to push the momentum while I was working at EY for probably
Yeah.
another year. Okay. But then a fellow entrepreneur who was a CPA, had started his own firm. Well, he didn't start his own firm. He got it from his dad, but he was growing it in his own way and doing different things. He saw what I was doing online. He was like, Rob, I love that. That's amazing. Can I tempt you to come and do it here at my firm? I said, well, let's talk details. And more or less, we sat down in December and he said, okay, we'll absorb you. You'll have I want you to give you full autonomy to run with it, do your thing. You've already had success. You're already growing. I just want to throw fuel on your fire. And he basically like paid me way more money than I had ever, thought possible for my little business that was growing at that point. And I found a way to jump straight into doing this full time within an organization that was also growing in specific ways that I was really excited about from an
Right.
entrepreneurial perspective, and gave my wife the security that she needed for her to not be like, okay, I'm done with this, type of a thing. And I have almost 100x my revenue since I did that. I made that jump in January.
That's awesome.
Like I I feel incredibly grateful. And I can't even pretend like I am this amazing entrepreneur and I've got $1 billion empire or anything, but like I went through a lot of pain to get to where I'm at, and I am so grateful for what I have. And I'm so excited to see what the future holds as we keep just growing and serving our clients.
I think that's I think it's a beautiful way to express to people that um, things don't happen overnight, right? And they do not go the way you planned. Um, regardless of any viewers, one, religious view, they say if you make a plan, God laughs, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so like I think that's hilarious because I was just talking to a good buddy of mine, uh, former business owner now, right? He runs one of the largest, I love businesses that no one even thinks about, like hospital cafeteria companies, right? Millions of dollars. It's ridiculous how much money
I
they make.
love it.
All right. Hospital cafeterias, like who would have thought about that? So him and his wife run that little the little
Boring businesses are the
empire.
best businesses. I
They
can't
really
do it.
are. My goal is always like, besides the podcast, no one should ever even know telehelping exists. I think that's hilarious as well. But that's a whole nother thought process. And I'm chatting with him, talking to him, and we're saying, he's like, him and I met years ago in completely different circumstances. And he's like, you ever thought that you would do what you're doing and living where you live? And I said, never in my life. Like if you would have told me that I would have created a podcast that pays for itself, I would have laughed at you. I'm like, I'm never gonna sit all day and talk to a stupid camera, right? Right. Well, I'm not gonna do that. Like, listen to myself talk. I'm not gonna do that. And so I imagine you sat there at the end of this journey and you're like, sometimes and it must be like euphoric sometimes to sit there when it really hits you. And it happens to me every now and then. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I think it happened to me this past Saturday when I definitely wasn't using this surfboard at the beach because this right here is an office supply, a prop, right? It is a prop for
Of
my
course.
office. But I
Use
was
your
using
tax
another
write-off.
surfboard, tax write-off, right? I was using another surfboard. I was sitting there at the beach and I thought to myself, like, this is 5:30 in the morning. Sun was just coming up. I like getting there first. And I sit there, I'm like, wow, never in my life. I get like goosebumps. Never in my life that I think that I would be where I'm at doing what I'm doing and love it so much. And I think that's what it's really cool that when you're telling your story, like I thought about what you were saying. Like there must have been moments where you're sitting there like, okay, so let me just inventory this, right? My kids are taken care of. They're living a good life, right? My wife, I'm taking care of her. We have the basic needs are just so checked. It's something else. They're checked. Who cares, right? But then I'm living this whole other life I never thought was possible. And I think like that is like, I don't know, I have goosebumps thinking about it right. I have goosebumps right now. Just thinking about the feeling. It's just such a weird thing to figure out where life takes you. And it's hard sometimes because I've been there where I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to make it. I was like, oh, I'm never going to be a CEO. And then I was a CEO. Like, I never own my own company. And then I've failed too many companies. And I think that that's what you said. Like, what iteration 17,000? Your wife's like, I feel like this is the one, babe. And when you said that, it made me think about. You ever watch the movie Turbo?
Oh, a long time ago.
With
But yeah.
a snail.
The
And
snail,
if
yep.
anyone's yeah, if everyone's ever watched it, I just watched it last night with my son. And if you ever watched the movie Turbo, you're all probably going to sit here and laugh at this. That's not the story that I remember from that movie. The story I remember from that movie is the guy who found the snail, the guy who wanted to get him in the race, like the brother from Dos Amigos Tacos, right?
Yep.
And the brother at the beginning, he's like, listen, he's like, you thought having monkeys and tacos was a good idea. Bad idea. He's like, you thought sushi and tacos was a bad idea. Bad idea. And he's like going through all these failures, right? And then there's like this one, the fastest snail in the world was the thing. And it's like, it's so hard when you're making all those failures to see which one you think is actually going to be the golden goose. And so you found it. And I think that's such a cool story.
Thank you. I mean, as you're describing those feelings, um, it's funny as I had my like epiphany moment probably a few months back, and my wife and I were sitting there talking about it. You know, had you asked me, I started off my career at Ernst Young right out of college in San Jose, California. And at that time, if you had asked me, hey, do you ever plan on living in Utah? I was like, heck no, wouldn't have made my top 10. When I got out of accounting the first time, would I have ever guessed I'd go back into public accounting at Ernst and Young again? I would have swore that you were crazy. That I would never do that. Oh, but I would willingly now want to be a partner in another accounting firm. I would have said there's not a freaking chance in the world that I'd ever do something like that. That's idiotic. I'm gonna go do this. And I had my vision. I wouldn't trade it. I love it. It's been as I think back, like, oh yeah, I thought the Elements, this like software company I was doing the sales for stuff. I thought that they were doing was really, really interesting and it was going to blow up and I'd make a lot of money there and I'd be able to then just take the money and be able to kind of like do my thing on the side at my own pace, my little side business. Because my business wasn't getting up and running. I thought, no, I'm never going to be profitable at this little business. Instead, the business I thought was going to be successful utterly fails. It's still technically around, but it's just like this like little like nut, right? And my other business is the one that actually takes off. I thought, okay, I'm going to start this podcast and it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to get like all these listeners and I'm going to grow it and I'm going to make money at it. And, I'm going to get tons of clients from it. I'm going to be this. I never got a single client from that podcast. I never made a single dime. I edited everything myself because this was like right around COVID time. I was dirt poor. Like, okay, I'm going to edit everything. I'm going to do it all. I put hundreds of hours into my podcast. Never got anything from it, but learned amazing lessons. And to your point earlier, like you don't fail until you give up. I just thought I just didn't give up. I just kept going. And now I look back, I am so, so grateful. I could have never guessed, even along the way, that this is where it would lead me. But I love it.
You know,
I'm having fun.
that's so funny. When we started our podcast, we did it more as like a ability to like understand more about our clients, our client types is like, I'm like, I'm like, I really think because the clients we do have, getting them, we're just happy they pay on time, but they're so busy, right? And so we don't bother them too much. But I'm like, I want to talk to other people in these industries so that my team who never speaks to the clients, they know who these humans are. Like, who is a CPA? Like, what is a CPA firm? Like, what do they do, right? Who are the type of people who start them? How did they get there? And so they stop seeing people as like a company or an invoice number. And they start seeing people as Rob Cook, right? Oh, hey, Rob Cook's account. Yeah, I know him. And so we did this huge cultural shift. And then the podcast just kind of grew. I never thought in my life I'd have a podcast, but what you said there was interesting because you thought that software sales was going to give you that big exit and you're going to be sitting there high and on the cow, right? I thought, it's interesting. The company of the company of the company is how this company became an existence, right? This is one company that was out there and I'm sitting there. I just remember I was running operations and M&A and I was buying a new company, multi-million dollar companies every month, just like picking them up, like, we're buying them for assets, stacking them to the revenue, right? And the whole purpose was to amount valuation that would allow us to take an exit, right? And so we were just picking up market position and contracts. I was sitting there, I was like, wow. I was like, if we sell this company for a conservative approach at the time in the middle of COVID, it's the beginning of COVID. I'm like, this is going to be great. I'm like, I'm get like $50 million out of this. I'm like, I'm not going to know what to do with the money. Right. And it didn't pan out. Imagine that, right? It didn't pan out. I still own a portion of the company. It's still alive. It's not worth 300 million like I thought it was. It's probably worth like 30 million now. And so it's one tenth of what it was. But that company led me into a CEO ship, right? That led me into the founding of telehelping or the former known company, telehelp, right? And then that company isn't even the company here today. It's a completely different entity because I was like, man, all this isn't working. You're talking about like, what do I do with all this? You have to strip things away. Like this iteration is going to work, right? And then telehelping as today, what it's known for is not even what it was starting off to be, right? I would have never have told you that I would work with financial advisors, CPAs, and lawyers. Like of all the people I would have wanted to provide virtual staff for, that would not have been the group that I picked. Great clients, right? However, you just didn't think you'd start there. Like how I have, and one thing that's been bothering me, like what is a high earning salesperson? Like we're talking like high earning, like are you talking
North of
like,
$300,000 a year.
okay, great. So I mean that's a nice pay.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean you're in Salt Lake too, so we're talking about software people, right? You get some
there's
software
a lot
clients.
of software sales guys here in the Salt Lake area.
Yeah,
That's part of the reason why I did it.
that's great. I mean, it's interesting. My brother, also, funny enough, never would have thought he would have been an entrepreneur, right? He owns a plumbing company out there. Look it up, Drain Kings. If you ever have, I mean, he
Note to
runs
self.
that. It's a great guy. Just tell him you were, Cody, your brother, and he'll hook you up. I would have never thought he was a plumber ever, right? And now he owns a plumbing company, a really successful plumbing company. But he was a sales guy. He went out to become a plumber and then turns out he can plumb, but man, he can sell snow to an Eskimo, right? And so he's sitting over there making, you know, $300,000 a year selling plumbing for the biggest plumbing company in, you know, the valley. And he's like, you know, Cody, I think that I don't know if I want to work for other people anymore. I'm like, I've been telling you this for 5 years. Like, why are you only getting 30% of what you sell for other people? I'm like, you're selling these guys, you know, million plus in plumbing a year, and you're only taking 30% of the cut. I was like, and then you're paying the other half in taxes. And so you're seeing 150 grand before, you know, it's all said and done if you did it right in the first place. Right. And so I was like, you need to stop. Now he's sitting there, you know, making more money than he ever thought he would. And all he wanted to be was a plumber. So, you know, Rob, I think that you have a beautiful story. And one thing that I think is just really captivating for so many people who have been able to listen to and follow the journey. And normally I wouldn't let people tell a parable of their journey. But I think you did it so well because you were able to stop on the different summits and paint us a picture of kind of like, well, let's, you know, I'm a dentist. And then I'm like, wow, you know, I really like numbers because I can see the cryptic writing on the wall. Like doing that really helped me see a journey that was something that needed to happen for you and the people in your life. And I think that for those listening, many of you, you may find yourself right now at some part of your journey. Maybe you're at your Ernst Young, right? Maybe you're at it for the second time, right? Maybe you are the dentist and you've always had a thing for marketing, or you always had a thing for accounting, right? You're in that journey, but you're there for a reason, right? Just try to listen to what the universe is telling you, because it's telling you what it wants you to do. Maybe it wants you to be the best dentist in the entire world, all right? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just, maybe it has you there for a short period of time.
Yep. Here for a reason, just for a season. Right.
I love it. Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir. And I look forward
Likewise.
to
Thanks for
staying
having me on.
connected with you. No, sir, it's been really well.
Likewise.
And I hope, oh, well, you have my contact information. I hope you stay connected with the podcast. And sir, enjoy the little bit of summer you guys have left over there in the valley before it starts, you know, turning the other way.
Hey, I love the fall. I love the cold. I'm a former football player, basketball player. So as soon as college football season starts, I'm happy. I don't care what
Okay.
it's like outside to
So
some
then
extent.
you say you're not playing and they are.
Oh no, I'm certainly not playing anymore. Let's be real. I think I would be broken at this point.
Oh,
Let's be real.
100%. Well, sir, I hope you have a great rest of today. Thank you so much for joining me. Be well.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.